Hi everyone, and welcome to the Say As It Is with Pete podcast series. I'm Pete, your host, and each week I will bring you some frank and honest conversations covering various topics from learning and development, apprenticeships, funding, HR, strengths, recruitment, ESG, well-being, ED&I, employability, and much, much more. So let's get this week's episode underway and say as it is. Hey everybody, I'm Peter and I am the host of the Say As It Is with Pete podcast, and this episode is actually being recorded audio and is also being recorded via video. This is something a little bit different for this one because someone said, why don't you record yourself? Well, yes, if you see on the video, I have not shaved my head yet, so that still needs to be done, and I look a little bit of a mess. It's been a long day. So yes, welcome to this episode of Say As It Is with Pete. And in this week's episode, and this is episode 23, and this is the final episode of season 2 because we enter into season 3 in a few weeks. Well, not in a few weeks. Well, after Monday, it's then we go into the next season. So, yeah, we move to season 3. So, and season 3 will mark a full 1 year of me doing this podcast show for Say As It Is with Pete. So there will be a bonus episode on the 6th of March, which celebrates my 1 year. So look out for that one. But for this episode, and if you're watching this, do excuse because I've got one side of my nose and obviously I'm looking at the camera at the same time. So all very good. But yes, so in this week's episode, to round up season 2, I wanted to look at a couple of things relating to HR because things are changing and we now need to be looking at the dawn of the new HR laws in the UK, and there are some interesting changes on the horizon, and we've only got probably about a month now coming around to actually look at this, and I kind of wanted to bring it to the forefront because I think it's key that we understand it. Because as the landscape always changes, we know in the world of HR it's always great fun. I do L&D, HR, and various other things. So dipping my toe into this has been kind of interesting. I'm still reading up on some of it and doing some research, but I've been able to talk about some new employment rules that are coming up, especially around, things about menopause and also caregivers. So just that in the UK there have been a significant developments in HR and employment laws regarding support for individuals going through menopause and for carers. So for the menopause support in the workplace, the government has appointed a menopause employment champion, and her name is Helen Tomlinson. So her job is to drive improvements. Now, Helen's efforts will include fostering collaboration with key stakeholders, developing the 4-point plan to enhance workplace support for menopausal women, and encourage all employers across various sectors to share best practices and resources. So the ultimate aim at this is to make sure that workplaces are more inclusive and supportive for women experiencing menopause, thereby helping to retain talent and improve productivity. So based on that, I also have heard that, listening to the radio and reading other bits and pieces, that with the menopause, they're thinking of classifying it as a disability and it should come under the Disability and Discrimination Act or under the Equality Act 2010. So there has been some controversial discussions and some debates around whether you would classify menopause as a disability or not. So that debate is still going on and that decision is still going on. But it does state that, employers do have to make those changes. And the menopause has been a big thing with employers in general, and employers need to understand that. So there's lots of employers that are doing things around menopause and getting women into work and supporting them while they're in work. And one of the things that we do at the company I work for is we do have a menopause policy and information and advice on the menopause that we provide to our team so that they're aware, and we educate our teams on that. So yeah, so that's one thing that we have to be aware of as employers, is taking the menopause more seriously, especially if it's going to come under the Disability and Discrimination Act. Now, as we also look at, apart from the menopause, on the other hand, there is the Carers Leave Act, which received the royal assent or royal approval in May 2023, and it's set to come into effect in April 2024, so just under a month, in England, Wales and Scotland. So the Act introduces the right for eligible employees to take 1 week of unpaid leave per year to fulfil their caring responsibilities. So, and that's from the first day of their employment. So we have to be aware of that, guys. So the legislation aims to offer flexibility for carers, ensuring that they can attend to their duties without the added stress of work commitments. I'm reading my notes. So importantly, employees will be protected from dismissal of any determinant that is a result of taking leave. And the process has been designed to be both smooth for both businesses and employees. So key point there is, when this comes into effect in April, as an employer, you need to be aware of this. So carers will be able to take 1 week of unpaid leave, and we should be allowing them to do it. We need to be flexible. Obviously, it's hard to gauge who we have as carers in the business. I'm going to come on to that in a minute. But additionally, there is a new family-friendly legislation that is also on the horizon. So this is aimed at increasing the rights for working parents and carers. So this includes the Protection from Redundancy, so Pregnancy and Family Leave Act 2023. So providing enhanced protection for women returning from maternity leave in redundancy situations, and the National Care, National Care. Can't even read my own writing. So it's going to protect, let me go over this again. So it's going to protect women from, who are returning from maternity leave in redundancy situations, and the Neonatal Care, so that's Leave and Pay Act 2023, offering paid leave for parents with children in neonatal care. So these measures affect an evolving legislative, landscape aimed to support employees through significant life stages and responsibilities. So these developments underscore the current UK's commitment to creating a more inclusive and supportive work environment. So acknowledging the importance of balancing professional and personal responsibilities. Now, you probably think, what? So we've got the menopause legislation coming in. So we got someone in government who is working upon stakeholders and organisations changing the mindset and the cultures in regards to how employers deal with the menopause within the work environment, and how we should handle it and what should be best practice. And as I said, there is that controversial discussion over the menopause being classified as a form of disability. So do we take that as a form of disability? Do we not? I've listened to some conversations on LBC over the last couple of weeks, and some women are like, it's not fair. How can you classify it as a disability? That's not what we want it to be about. And some women are saying yes. So it's a 50-50 debate at the moment. I'm interested to anybody that is listening to this that is either going through the menopause, has been through the menopause, or has strong views on the menopause, and whether you think it should be classified as a disability or not. So I'd like to know your insights into that. Now, especially with the carers leave of the 1 week unpaid, and then we have obviously the Pregnancy and Family Leave Act, and the Leave and Pay Act 2023 also to think about. So it's key that we bring ourselves up to date with those. And as employers, we should be preparing for this, right? There's no excuse why HR should not be on the ball and already aware of this. And there's been enough kind of probably information and advice out there. There's forums, there's roundtables, there's all sorts. And if you're really got your ear to the ground as a HR professional, as you should be, you should already be up to date with this. Now, if you are not necessarily HRE, or you are doing HR but you rely on a third party to support you, for example, RBH Mentor, or RBS Mentor, sorry, or it could be Peninsula or another, or HR Corner, or another HR employee related service provider, then they should be aware of this and notifying you in advance of those changes and supporting you with those changes. But if you run your HR team on your own, or your HR department on your own, you're keeping yourself up to date as a professional, as part of your CPD, you should be aware of this. So there are things that you can do to prepare yourself. And I would say, I'm going to give you some key points, and I will release later a document, which is like a checklist that you can use, and happy to share it. But everybody should be preparing for it, because the thing I see a lot with employers is that we're made aware of it, and we leave it to the last minute when we're searching and looking for this information, and we're suddenly calling third-party providers, or we're calling a legal team, or we're frantically searching on Google, or most people are frantically searching on Chat AI. Tell me what this legislation is. So you've got to remember, with AI, it's only as good as the information that is fed into it. And some of that information is as good as it can get. So just be careful, it may not be up to date. But you should be checking these out on a regular basis and keeping your ear to the ground. So from my perspective on this one, we all need to prepare for it, right? So we have to prepare for those changes, no matter what, on a HR perspective. So are there ways, or are there steps that you could prepare? Well, yes, there is, and I've got 5 of them. So those top 5 steps that you can do to prepare yourself is look at a policy development and review. That's number 1. So as employers, you should develop or update existing policies to incorporate the new regulations. So this includes creating menopause support policies and updating family leave policies to include provisions for carers' leave. So ensuring that these policies are in line with the new laws will help you to manage employees and employees' expectations and clarify the company's stance on the issues. So if you're already aware of them and that they're coming in, you should already be kind of planning them in and making reference to them in your policies of when they'll come into effect and what your stance is. But also, if you're using a third party, speak to them and they can help you update your policies and adjust them accordingly. Number 2 is training and awareness. It's my bread and butter. So training for managers and HR professionals on the implication of these new laws is crucial and critical. They need to know. Just because HR knows isn't the golden ticket, because we all have managers, and managers are always very interesting as such. So managers should be made aware of how it's done and why it's critical and why these policies are there. So the training should cover how to handle requests for menopause support and carers leave, and give an understanding of the rights of employees under these new laws, and how to apply these policies fairly and sensitively. So on that basis, you're not going to be teaching your managers the word for word what the law or regulation states. You only want the key points that they're going to need to know. So if someone's coming to them asking for menopause support, what are the things they need to know and consider and process? And if someone is coming for carers leave, what are the steps to be followed? Okay. Third is communication. So clear communication with all employees about the new policies and support mechanisms available is essential. So communication. So employees should ensure that employers are aware of their rights and the support available to them, which can be achieved through staff meetings, newsletters, or an updated employee handbook. You should be updating your employee handbook all the time on a regular basis, and you should be checking it every kind of 6 months. Some people check it yearly, but I would check it 6 months just to make sure it's still relevant, because there may have been some changes in the processes that have happened in the organization and you forgot to update it, or you need to update it. Make sure that handbook is available to everybody. Yeah, if you have multiple sites, you might tell the teams to make sure it's available. Another way to make sure your company handbooks are available is via QR code. Share that PDF via a QR code so people can download it and access it. And it's also, if you do an online induction, include it as a downloadable. So it's there like a document library at the end of their onboarding with all the relevant documents that employee may need in their employment. And I know some of you are going to say about communicating these changes with your employees, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but it's key that if there are changes, we need to let our teams know. And some employers will say, but if we let them know, we're going to run into a lot of issues, and they're all going to come asking for unpaid leave for 1 week. They're all going to come asking for carers leave. They're all going to come with menopausal support requests. They're not. It's key to communicate with your employees to let them know of these changes. We should be, and update them that these new processes are coming in. As an employer, you're aware of them, and you're here to support. And if they have questions, they can ask. So number 4 is support systems. So establishing support systems such as an employee assistance program, menopause CAFs, or support groups for carers within the workplace can offer additional resources for employees needing these supports. So providing access to medical advice, counselling services, and flexible working options can also be beneficial to the employee. So the menopausal CAFs can be where people who are suffering menopause can get together and talk, whether that's on not necessarily a weekly basis, it might be bi-weekly, monthly. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It can be like a 2-hour or an hour-and-a-half session where they can get together, have a conversation, support each other, see how they're getting on. And that's can either be on Teams, it can be face-to-face, depending. It's up to you how it's done. But also support groups for carers is great, because then carers can get together and talk of the same issues, how they're facing it. So they're good to have. Number 5 is flexibility and adaptation. I love it when I come up with long words and I can never read them. So this is offering flexible working arrangements or adjustments to the work environment, and it can help accommodate employees going through the menopause or those with caring responsibilities. So employers should be open to discussing and implementing reasonable adjustments to support those employees, and we should be making reasonable adjustments. And I know people get scared of that term, reasonable adjustments. Guys, suck it up. It's an adjustment. If you make that adjustment, that employee could be more productive than you not making that adjustment and they're struggling. So use a bit of common sense. So I know we're all scared of reasonable adjustments and it could cost us more, but it doesn't. Doing 1 or 2 reasonable adjustments can make a big benefit to anybody. So do it. And number 6, I lied, I said 5, but there's actually 6. So mentoring and feedback. So employees should, or employers, not employees, but employers should monitor the implementation of these policies and gather feedback from employees to understand their effectiveness and areas for improvement. So this can help ensure that the support provided meets the needs of the workforce and can lead to those adjustments in policies as necessary. So by taking these 6 steps, and hopefully they will help, you as an employer or employers can not only comply with the new legal requirements, but also you can demonstrate a commitment to supporting the well-being of your employees, ultimately leading to more inclusive and supportive workplace culture. Now, that's fantastic, and I think that's great. And, look, I think some employers should create forums and reach out and say, if there is anybody suffering with menopause, please reach out to us, as we are currently reviewing our menopause policies and processes and would love to have your input. if you have carers, and I attended a carers lunch and learn session with People Plus under the SHRAG, or the Social Recruitment Advocacy Group that I belong to, and it was really informative. Got some really key things out of there. But it's interesting to see how, as employers, we do not know who in the business are carers, because there are people in your business right now that are carers that you don't know about. So how do you do that? You've got to find out. It may be worth sending out a survey very briefly saying, if you are a carer, and then list what potential carers could be, please select yes. And if you'd like to get involved in any forums or discussions to help us improve our policies and procedures around carers within the workplace to provide you additional support, we would love to hear from you. Please provide your details. So you can then gauge in the business how many carers you have. And if there are people that are really keen to support the business and drive that kind of, inclusion and equality side through for carers, and that's what you need, then great. And the reason why I talk about having forums with people with menopause and carers as well, and I've said this in previous podcasts, if you want to have the best work culture, the best organization where it's a fantastic working environment, and you want to improve policies and procedures, if it's equality and diversity, if it's an LGBTQIA plus policy, if you are creating an equality group, or you're looking at menopause or care leavers, or you're looking at the paternity and maternity policies, speak to those that have got it. Even in recruitment, and I say this again and again, if you're looking to recruit from certain diverse backgrounds or groups, whether it's from the deaf community, the Down syndrome community, whether it's people aged 45 plus, whether it's people with disabilities that you're trying to support back into work, don't as a senior leadership team sit around the table and go, oh, okay, well, we'll do it, and we'll classify ourselves as a disability confident employer, and let's advertise we do it, and then we're kind of deal with it when it happens. And then you realize, well, actually, you're not doing it right. No employer does it right, and it frustrates me. And I get a bit passionate about it, but it frustrates me. If you want to employ certain people or certain groups of people within your organization and you don't know where to start, get a forum of those people. The same as if you're struggling to get a certain community group to work for you. So whether it's Nepalese, or whether it's Romanians, or whether it's Polish, or whether it's Ukrainians, or whether it's Russians, or whether it's Germans, whether it's French, whether it's Spanish, whether it's the Indian student community, you've got these people in your organization already. So light bulb moment, ding, you've got the group there. Reach out to some of them, pull them in for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, sit them down and say, how did you find out about this job? How can we link in more with your communities? What can we do to attract more people like you to come and work for us? It gives that sense of empowerment to the employee, but it also gives you key and crucial information that nobody else is tackling into. I see it countless times on the recruitment side. We're all pulling from the same pool of candidates. We're going to the same watering hole, and I see the same regular faces. We're all there, all trying to drink from the same pool, and that pool is getting smaller and smaller. But we need to be smarter in what we do. So take that as advice. But with all of this and this massive landscape change, we have to consider that there is always going to be some pitfalls. And there are some key pitfalls that you need to make sure that you are not falling into. So if you are failing to do this, so as employers, if you are slow to react, or you disregard the new changes in the HR and employment laws that are coming, specifically regarding menopause support and carers leave in the UK, you may face some several penalties or pitfalls. So number one is legal and financial consequences. We don't like this one. So non-compliance with employment laws can lead to legal challenges, including employment tribunal claims. We don't want them. And this can result in significant financial costs, including compensation payments to affected employees, legal fees, and potential fines and breaches of legislation and regulation, and no employer or wants to be named or shamed for that. So stay out of that. So make sure your policies are up to date. Secondly, reputational damage. So failing to adapt to these changes can harm an employer's reputation, both internally and externally. So negative publicity and non-compliance of unsupportive workplace practices can impact an employer's brand, making it harder to attract and retain top talent. And that's key. You've got to remember that it's not how you're seen on the outside, it's also seen how you're seen on the inside. So you've got to think of your external and your internal view. So if you're failing to support your staff internally, it's not going to have a great effect. If you are, it's that kind of greenwashing or menopause washing or, carer washing, I'm going to call them, or greenwashing or pink washing. It's that washing phrase, which is you say you do it, but you don't. So you may do it on the face value and say, yes, we support with menopause. Yes, we support with carers leave. Yes, we're fully supportive of people with disabilities. Yes, we do this. Yes, we do that. But actually you don't. And those people that you have carers or have menopause or you have disabilities in your organisation and you don't support them and you don't follow the rules and regulations, it's going to damage internally as well. Yeah, because you don't want the apple to rot from inside out. You don't want the apple to rot at all, right? So you want that apple to be clean, pristine, gleaming, attractive. I don't know why I'm using an apple as an acronym for this, but yeah, you know what I mean. So think about your brand reputation because it can affect you internally and externally. And always remember that. Number 3 is decreased employee morale and engagement. So yeah, ignoring the needs of employees going through menopause or those with caring responsibilities can lead to a decreased morale and engagement rate. So employees who feel unsupported are likely to be less productive, potentially increasing going absent and decreasing overall job satisfaction. So I know we can't solve everybody's problems, but we need to be supportive at all aspects. And by being supportive, it shows that we have that engagement with our employees, we increase their morale, we increase their productivity, and we also increase their engagement. So this is key why I go back to the forums with those groups and say, pull those people that are key within your business. If you don't know if you have people with menopause in your business, you do, but if you don't know how many people are suffering with menopause, or you don't know how many carers you have in the business, or you don't know how many people with disabilities. Now remember, disabilities can be seen and unseen. So there may be some unseen disabilities that you don't know. So if you ask, then you got that key group, and if you get them engaged from that point to support, then that shows that you are having those forums, you're engaging employees, and you are adapting. So yes, it's great to have all these employee surveys that you do on, how do they feel about their well-being, do we provide enough information, blah de blah. But again, most employee satisfactions that come back, nobody does anything about them anyway. They just go, oh, look what people are saying. Oh, some really nice comments. Yay, we're doing really well. But do you analyze them? Do you see any difference from the last one to the current one? No. Employees may be saying things, but we don't listen. And I think that's a fundamental thing that employees must remember. We must listen to our current employees. Find out why they're working for us. If you've got Bob that's been here 7 to 8 years, why is Bob still here? Jane's been here 20, 25 years. Why is Jane still here? What made them come and work for the business? Why are they still here? Is there anything that we can learn from them to help attract more people to the business? So yes, if you don't follow these policies, if you don't follow the new legislation that are coming in, people will know about them. And trust me, these employees are clever cookies. They probably know more than you at times. That's scary, but yes, I would admit sometimes they do. So it's important that you, when following them, you don't want that decreased employee morale or engagement if you're not being responsive and you're just ignoring their needs. So number 4 is loss of talent. Yes, employee retention and turnover. So employees who feel that their needs are not being met or that their workplace is not inclusive may choose to leave for a more supportive environment or employers. So this can lead to a loss of valuable talent and knowledge, increased recruitment costs, and a loss of diversity within the organisation and the workforce. So yeah, if you're not doing it, you're not showing it, you're not supporting it, then yeah, you could be losing some top talent, and that would be a shame for anybody. And then the fifth one on this one of pitfalls is the impact of diversity and inclusion. So by not responding to those challenges so not responding to these challenges can undermine an employer's diversity and inclusion efforts. So supporting everyone through the menopause and caring responsibilities is essential and critical for creating an inclusive workplace where all employees feel valid and supported. So it's key to remember that to mitigate these risks, employers should take a proactive step to comply with the new laws and legislations, creating supportive policies and practices, and foster an inclusive workplace culture. So this is not only going to help avoid the pitfalls mentioned in those 5 tips, but also it contributes as a more positive and productive work environment. And look, I've got a checklist going through about compliance and policy development, training and awareness, support and resources, monitoring and feedback, communication engagement, documentation and record keeping, and then your legal and regulatory update. So I'm going to create that list for you, a little checklist that you can use so that you can use it and enjoy it. But what I will say as well is that, I do apologise for that, a bit of feedback, but what I will say as well is when you're looking at this, just make sure that you are following it the best you can. It's always hard when you have new policies and procedures and laws and regulations come into an organisation, and we have to adapt. We need to make sure as HR professionals that we're up to date with the current rules and regulations and changes that are coming in. If you're still unsure, then you can reach out to various people to have a look. Don't always trust what you read online. It can be difficult. Use official government websites. Use UCAS as well, but read the information. I know sometimes it can be hard to read so much information and keep up to date, but that's what you want to do. The more you keep up to date with all the new employment laws and regulations coming out, especially when it comes to immigration and things like that, because that's changing all the time. And I found something else out the other day about immigration and EU workers that the government is considering. So I've now got my ear to the ground for that one, and I will keep you posted, because that may be another podcast we talk about, is the right to work in the UK, the landscape that is ever changing. Dun, dun, dun. So yes, so look, if you were aware of these changes, fantastic. If you're up to date and you've kept your policies up to date and things, perfect. But if there's anything you can take away from this today, I absolutely love it. But I would say the main thing that you could take away is getting those forums together, because with any employer, your people are key. It's the people that are in your business that make your business what it is today. It's not you as an owner, as a CEO, as part of the senior leadership team. Yes, you're steering the ship. That's what you're doing. But it's your workers that are making it work. They're the feet at the bottom that are running. They're the ones they are your crew. They are keeping everything ship shape for you. So you're steering it on the bridge with the captain, and your crew are down there working their socks off to make sure it is pristine, clean, and ship shape. So, and I said ship shape. So just remember that. Value and respect your employees. And yes, sometimes this could be a little bit too much. I know some male senior leaders do not like talking about the menopause, but suck it up, buttercup, because you need to know. We should never shy away as professionals, whether we are male or not. We should always make sure that we do not shy away from certain topics that could be challenging or uncomfortable to read about, or things that we disagree with. In the working world, we have laws and legislations to follow in employment law, and we should be kept up to date with these on a regular basis. There are many forums and groups and newsletters and websites you can follow, which I do to keep up to date, and you should be doing the same. By being aware of these changes can help you better plan and prepare your business, can better plan and prepare your employees. As I said before, some employers don't like to communicate these kind of changes out because they're worried and concerned about how employees will react and that they'll have a flood of requests coming in. Obviously, you can try and vet and make sure that these are valid requests, but it's key to remember that we must treat employees with uttermost respect at all times and treat everybody's case individually, not as a one-size-fits-all. Now, what I will say is just keep up to date with everything, because as a L&D practitioner, HR professional, I always have to keep up to date. So even delivering my strength scope, there are always currently changes and updates and things coming and all sorts. So I'm always keeping up to date with that. I keep up to date with stuff in the FM world, within the hospitality industry, with apprenticeships. There's so much information that I kind of hoover up, I should say, that keeps me up to date. But it's key that I do that, because if you don't keep yourself up to date, you are going to fall behind everybody else, and then you're going to be playing catch up. And you don't want to be doing that. So always stay informed and always have your ear to the ground, because if you have your ear to the ground, you kind of know the grumbles and the rumbles, and you kind of know what's coming, and you can start planning a lot better for it. Because we learned this with Brexit. There was very little information, then there was too much information. People didn't know what to do, how to handle it. Everybody's getting confused. No one was reading anything. It was just whatever was being shoved out on social media. That's what people were looking at. If there is a new legislation, rule or regulation, take the time to read it. I do this with all my apprenticeships. So when there's an apprenticeship update in the funding rules, whether it's off the job, whether it is down to the delivery, whether it is down to whatever it may be within the world of apprenticeships, I will sit and read all the legislations and documentations to make sure I understand it. Yes, it can be a lengthy process. There are some tools that you can use in Adobe that will read it to you. There are some tools within Word that can read it to you. So if you don't want to read it yourself, you can put the read aloud on option within Microsoft, and it can read the document to you, and you can listen to it and follow along. So yeah, listen and read. So don't stress too much. Just make sure you're keeping up to date. I think that's the key thing in this one. And as the landscape continues to change, there are more HR rules and regulations that will come into effect this year for 2024. So keep an update for them, and I will address them on future podcasts. But guys, look, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Say As It Is with Pete, and I hope that this episode has given you a little bit more insight into those 2 key changes, or potentially 3, because there is that new one on the horizon, of what's going on and things that you need to be made aware of. Now, I will do other episodes during season 3 in regards to right to work, a little bit more on these policies and procedures as they grow and develop. But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of this episode. Please share this episode with anyone that you may think would need it. And if any apprentices are listening, log this as you're off the job. You're learning something new. So guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on this one. So this is my first time recording it on video and recording at the same time. So I'm kind of interested to see how it turns out. Who knows? This could be just a one-off and you never see me again. But guys, thank you very much. Remember, you can always go back and listen to this episode and previous episodes and bonus episodes on rss.com, as Say As It Is. But you can also listen to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, Google, wherever you get your podcast from, as well as the YouTube channel Say As It Is with Pete. So until next time, have a fantastic week. Keep an eye out for this week for my 1-year anniversary podcast special, and I will be posting out a very special link to a merchandise shop that I have. So I have got some hoodies, cups, mouse mats, all sorts, phone covers, post, whatever. It's a loads of merchandise to celebrate 1 year, and there's going to be a special 50% off discount code as well. So keep an eye out for that one as well. But guys, again, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, whatever you're doing. I know that I'm coming back from holiday and I can see those emails racking up. So I know what I'm doing tomorrow, because Monday I have an ops meeting for 4 hours, followed by tons of emails, catching up, and 4 days of craziness before planning to go back to the Netherlands for a week. Happy days. So guys, thank you again. Enjoy your week. Don't stress, and just enjoy life to the best you can.